the murderers and the thugs let into our country.
You said there's many points of agreement with Iran right now.
Many.
What can you give us a
Many,
few of those?
like 15 points. 15 points.
Iran has said yes.
Well, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. That's number one. That's number 1, 2, and 3. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
They said yes to that?
They've agreed to that.
Will we see arrests, illegal migrant arrests at airports, sir?
Arrests?
Will we see ICE arresting illegal migrants at airports?
Yeah, that's why the Democrats are going crazy, because they've allowed, by what they did, and hold up, we put ICE, who are a very high level, I mean, they really are a high level group of people, and they love it because they're able to now arrest illegals as they come into the country. That's very fertile territory, but that's not why they're there. They're really there to help.
Are we talking to Iran directly?
To no enrichment whatsoever, even for medical purposes, civilian purposes?
They have. Thank you.
What about the Strait of Hormuz? Who's going to be in control of that?
That'll be opened very soon if this works.
How soon? And who's in control of it? Will Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in
Me
control
and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. Look, and there'll also be a form of a very serious form of a regime change. Now, in all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for. Look at Venezuela, how well that's working out. We are doing so well in Venezuela with oil and with the relationship between the president-elect and us. And maybe we find somebody like that in Iran.
Are you considering any more options to lower the price of oil while these talks?
The price of oil will drop like a rock as soon as a deal is done. I guess it already is today. No, we have a very serious chance of making a deal. That doesn't guarantee anything. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm not going to come out here in a week or 2 weeks and have you all say, oh, you said. I didn't say anything. All I'm saying is we are in the throes of a real possibility of making a deal. And I think if I were a betting man, I'd bet for it. But again, I'm not guaranteeing anything. They want to make a deal very badly. Thank you.
What changes would you like to see in DHS under Mark Wayne Mullen?
Well, he's going to be fantastic. He'll make his own change. He's already given me a list of people he wants to bring. He's a fantastic guy. I think he's just the right guy. You all know him. He's a very open, smart guy, very successful actually in business, which people don't know. And he's a friend of mine. I think Mark Wayne is going to be fantastic. Thank you.
Are these direct talks to Iran?
On the plane crash that happened
Terrible. They made a mistake. It's a dangerous business. That's terrible. Thank you.
That is the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He's speaking in Florida, where he says that Iran approached him to make a deal. He says that there are 15 points that he wants to discuss with Iran and whoever their leader is. He also spoke about the deployment of the ICE agents to airports. He says this is a much needed safeguard for the country. He also dismissed the former counterterrorism operator, Joe Kent, who revealed why the United States made a mistake to attack Iran. He says that he employed Joe Kent out of sympathy because Joe Kent had run for governor twice and failed and lost his wife. And he was pitiful to Joe Kent, and that's why he offered him a job. He says that Joe Kent betrayed him. So he's saying, the President of the United States, that we are in the throes of making a deal with Iran and the fighting will stop as soon as possible after this deal is made. He says that Iranians reached out to him. He did not call them. He also says that communication breakdown, there has been a communication breakdown between Iran and the United States and the world because most of their communications channels were destroyed during the war. He also says that he will be making or talking to sensible people in Iran to make this deal happen. Once again, the President of the United States has pointed out that there are 15 points that he wants to discuss with Iran, and one of those 15 points is that Iran cannot develop a nuclear weapon. That is his ultimatum for Iran. Let's talk to our correspondent Susan Teherani. She is in New York. Susan Teherani, a myriad of statements. First of all, the president did say that he wants a pause of 5 days to any attacks on Iran. Now he says that Iranians called him to make a deal.
Yeah, Eric, those pause and attacks are on Iranian infrastructure. The attacks continue on Iran's ballistic missile facilities and other targets that Israel and the United States have continued to hammer. Now, it's important to note that President Trump also mentioned that he's not talking, or the United States, which in his case said that it's Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, that they're talking to a coalition of quote-unquote sensible leaders, sensible individuals. They're not talking to just one person. That was very telling. Now, despite the fact that, as you mentioned, Iran says there has been no communication between the two sides, that's on its official state media. We'll wait and see where these alleged talks lead to. But it doesn't seem that the United States has come down from any of its demands. When we look at those 15 points, it's no enrichment, no ballistic missiles, everything that was before this attack. Now, I do want to say that about a few days ago, at the start of the weekend, it was interesting that we saw this letter come out from a coalition of so-called reformists within the Iranian government, former President Khatami, former Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, and others. They sort of put together some kind of, not officially, but a letter and a coalition saying that, the direction of the country should change, and they put out a set of reforms. One has to wonder whether or not the president and his team are talking with those individuals within Iran, or it's someone else, or that they're not even having discussions. And this is something that President Trump mentioned, because from now until 5 days from now, which is the working week, oil prices remain stable. Remember, that's very important. So the clock starts now, I guess. We'll see if these talks continue, if Iranians also acknowledge that these talks are continuing, and what happens to the ongoing attacks that are coming from Iran. Yeah.
Well, Susan, Iranians have dismissed that they have been in talks or they have made a deal with Washington. Yeah. They continue to deny that there have been any talks between Washington and Tehran. But also, the president did mention something very peculiar. He did mention that he wants to make a deal and he wants to talk to the next Ayatollah, if there is any Ayatollah left in Iran. That was very interesting for the president to say, because this is the first time that he has actually mentioned or even termed Ayatollah.
Well, yeah, the next Ayatollah doesn't necessarily have to be the son of the former supreme leader, because we don't know what his state is. There are, as he mentioned, a lot of Ayatollahs in Iran. Now, which of them will step up and sort of be in lockstep with U.S. policies is the million-dollar question, which presumably that's what President Trump wants. As someone who's lived there and worked there, I know one or two that may view the United States favorably, but that's about it. I don't know if that's even possible in the current regime apparatus and in the framework that Iran is operating. But he also, you're right, he also said that once, that Ayatollah that he has in mind, or Ayatollahs come to power, then he would consider that regime change. These are very vague statements. I wouldn't really look too much into them as of now, but I think that the president right now is very concerned about oil prices. On the one hand, he received a lot of backlash in attacking Iranian infrastructures on the other during the weekend. And presumably, someone on the Iranian side made a telephone call. That's what the United States is saying. Iran is denying that. So I would focus on those three aspects, and anything else that President Trump is saying regarding future Ayatollahs, I would take that with a grain of salt right now, because things are moving so quickly and so fast. And again, you know, those strikes are continuing against Iran.
Well, Susan, the president did also make some two issues, or spoke about some two issues that are happening in the United States. One of them, he dismissed Joe Kent. He says that he reached out to Joe Kent out of favor and out of sympathy, and now Joe Kent gives him a big thank you by thrashing him and by denying his statements. And the other is about the deployment of ICE agents at the airport. He says that this was a much needed relief for America, but Americans are not happy with that decision. Very quickly, Susan.
Yeah, the Democrats aren't happy, because they were trying to get ICE out of the way, and all of a sudden they see that they're going to appear front and center at airports. Americans just want relief at the airports. The situations, Eric, are really out of hand. I mean, you look at these crowdings and TSA lines, it looks like an absolute nightmare. So they think any relief is good relief at this point. Not the Democrats. So let's see what they do about passing this funding bill, because we are in a partial government shutdown after all. And regarding Joe Kent, it appears that he has morphed into the MAGA camp that is completely opposed to any of the foreign policy decisions that the president is taking. So no surprise there either.
Susan Teherani is our correspondent in New York. Susan, thank you.